Today we're going to talk about the volume of cylinders, cones, and spheres, and it can be related back to the volume of rectangular prisms, which you would have worked with in the past. So to find the volume of this rectangular prism, I know that a lot of you guys have seen the formula length times width times height. And another way to think about that is the area of the base times the height. And if we look at the base of this shape, it is a rectangle, and the area of that rectangle would be length times width. And then that gives us the bottom layer, and then we would have to multiply by the number of layers, which in this case is the height, which is where we get the length times width times height. For a cylinder, finding the volume is very similar. We can still think about it as the area of the base times the height. In this case, the area of the base is a circle, so we need to recall the formula for the area of a circle. Remember, that is pi r squared, so it would be pi r squared. That gives us the bottom layer, and then times the number of layers, that would be the height. So the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times h. So you may want to make sure that you're taking good notes and writing this down, because you're going to be able to use your notes on your quiz next class. Now, the video that you watched earlier connected the cone to the area of a cylinder, if they have the same height and radius, and also connected the sphere. Hopefully you noticed in the video that it took 3 cones to fill up the cylinder. So 1 cone is 1/3 the volume of that cylinder. So if we want to find the volume of the cone, we think about the cylinder. Remember, that was area of the base. That's pi r squared times the number of layers, that is the height. That's if it's a cylinder, but we want the cone, which is 1/3 of that, so then we're going to divide by 3. And then the volume of a sphere is really the same thing as 2 of those cones. And if you multiplied that cone by 2 and you did some manipulation with the formula, you would come up with 4 pi r cubed over 3. So today we're going to make sure that we can use the formulas for those shapes to find the volume. For these next few examples, you may want to make sure that you're copying them down in your notes so that you have a good example to look at when you take your quiz. So we have a cylinder. We need the area of the base. So pi r squared, and then we're going to multiply it by the height. In this case, here's my circle. We see that it has a radius of 10. So my volume is pi times 10 squared times the height, and that in this case, the height is 6. And so this piece is what's going to be considered your work. I want to see where you're plugging in. Sometimes people have all the right numbers and hit something wrong on their calculator. So show me the steps of plugging those numbers in. That is what's considered to be your work for these problems. So pi times 100 times 6. Bare minimum, you have to give me your decimal value. Some of you guys might be able to also write your answers in terms of pi. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then some of you guys might just skip to the decimal piece, and that's okay too. So this next line is optional. I can simplify that piece. 100 times 6 is 600, so I would have 600 pi. That's called your exact answer. It's optional. Everybody should also be able to give me a decimal. So you could type in pi times 100 times 6, and then we're going to round to like the nearest hundredth. So I would get 1884.9 9. I would round the 5 up to a 6 in this case. And then we always want our units, so this would be in cubic centimeters. So those are your two possible answers. Again, I'm expecting everyone to be able to give me the decimal, and some of you guys may or may not write it as 600 pi. Okay, so for the next example, it's very similar. You can pause the video and give it a shot if you'd like to. The only difference this time is that we are not given the radius, we're given the diameter, the length across the entire circle. So if that diameter is 18, then the radius would be 9. So sometimes you just have to make sure you're paying attention. Are they giving me the length of the radius or the diameter? So if you'd like to pause the video and try this one on your own, you can. So volume equals pi times 9 squared times the height, which in this case is 8. So if I simplify, pi times 81 times 8. Again, some of you guys might want to write that in terms of pi. In this case, 81 times 8 gives me 648. So I would have 648 pi. That would be cubic centimeters. Some of you guys might want to just go from here to here and hit pi times 81 times 8 in your calculator, and you should get 2,035.75 cubic centimeters. Okay, so that is the volume of a cylinder. Volume of a cone is going to be similar. Remember, it's the area of the base, pi r squared, times the height. That gives us, that would be what for a cylinder. Since this is a cone and we only want a third of that, we're going to divide it by 3. So in this case, pi times my radius is 4, so 4 squared times my height, that would be 11 all over 3. So pi times 16 times 11 over 3. For this one, if you wanted to write it in terms of pi, 16 times 11 is 176 pi over 3, and 176 is not divisible by 3, so that would be your exact answer. Or you can skip straight from this step to the decimal, and to do that you would hit pi times 16 times 11 divided by 3, and that should give you 184.3, and then we're going to round. The 6 makes the 0 go up to a 1 cubic yards. Final answer. And this next example is similar. Again, though, we're given the diameter. In this problem, the diameter is 10. So then we have to know that the radius is 5. And then it's just like the example that we just did. So if you want to pause the video and try this one on your own, you can. So volume equals pi r squared h divided by 3. That would give us pi times 5 squared times the height, which is 12 divided by 3. That would be pi times 25 times 12 over 3. And this time, 25 times 12, we can divide that by 3 evenly. So if I were going to write my exact answer, it would be 100 pi. That would be cubic yards. So that's your exact answer, but some of you guys might not write that. Some of you guys might go straight from here to your decimal, and that's okay. So if you, in your calculator, hit pi times 25 times 12 divided by 3, you're going to get 314.6 cubic yards. Final answer. That's volume of the cones. The last one is the volume of spheres. And for the volume of a sphere, it is 4 pi r cubed over 3. Make sure you have that written in your notes so that you can use that on your quiz. And so for this problem, we would have 4 times pi times my radius, which is 2 cubed all over 3. So that would be 4 times pi times 8. Remember, 2 times 2 times 2 all over 3. In this case, if you were going to write your exact answer in terms of pi, we would get 32 pi over 3. We would leave it like that because 32 is not divisible by 3. So there's my exact answer. Again, some of you guys might skip that step, and you might just give me the decimal. If you were going to give me the decimal, you're typing in 4 times pi times 8 divided by 3, and that should give you 301.59 cubic kilometers. So you might want to pause the video and try this next one on your own. So this time, again, we're given the diameter of 6 because that's the length across the entire circle. That means our radius is 3. So volume equals 4 times pi times 3 cubed over 3. So 4 times pi times 27 over 3. We can simplify that. 4 times 27 divided by 3 is an even number. That would give me 36 pi. Again, some of you guys might skip that step and you might go straight to the decimal. So you would type in 4 times pi times 27 divided by 3, and that's going to give you 113.10 cubic kilometers, and that's your final answer. So a few important things to remember. Pay attention to whether or not you're given your radius or your diameter, and make sure you are plugging in your numbers into the right spot and typing things into your calculator correctly.